Okay, so now we're back in that other file, but before we move on to the next part, we're going to want to do a little bit of cleanup. So under the Edit menu,
just select the option for Delete Guides. The construction lines go away and it just makes it a little easier to see what we're going to do here next in the model. We've already explored a couple of different ways for working with components in the model and being able to make copies of those components. Another option for that is to go up to the top of the screen under Window and select the option for Components. That's going to open up the component browser. And in the component browser dialog window, you'll see a little icon of a house. If you click on that little house icon, it's going to take you to all of the components that are currently in your model. And here we see the window component that we've drawn. In order to take this window and put it into the model, just click on it and bring it into the file. You'll see that same gluing action as before. Just click to set it down anywhere. So have some fun with this. You can just plop a couple windows down onto the wall. You can put a couple up onto the roof. Maybe put a couple onto the other side of the building as well. Also in the component browser, as you guys probably saw in our level 1 DVD, you can scroll through some of these menus and we could go to the architecture sampler. We could grab a door, we could bring a front door into the building, maybe put a back door over onto the other side. And in some cases, you may be looking for something that's not in here. Say, for example, we're looking for a garage door. You might want to check out the 3D warehouse. In order to do that, there's a little button in the Google toolbar. If you don't see these buttons on your screen, you can go up to View, Toolbars, and turn on the Google toolbar. That should give you these tools. And one of those tools is a little box with a yellow arrow pointing out. If you hover over it long enough, you'll see an option for Get Models. Just click on this button and SketchUp will automatically launch the 3D warehouse. In the 3D warehouse, you can go up to the search field and just search for any kind of SketchUp model. Here I'm going to type in one car rolling garage door and hit enter. That brings me right to this garage door that Google's modeled as part of their online component library. If I click on it, I can get a bunch of information about the model, and there's also a button that says Download Model. A pop-up window asks me if I want to load that model directly into the SketchUp model, and if you click yes, now you've got that component attached to your cursor as though you've brought it in from the component browser, and you can just click right in the model to set it down. Now, a couple of things you'll notice that are maybe a little bit weird. We just got done talking about gluing, and Alex showed you where you have the option to right-click on a component and unglue it, and the surface that it was glued to will fill back in. Well, here it might look like something like that's happening, but in fact, with the skylights that we've tried to toss onto the roof and the garage door that we've tried to put onto the garage, what's really happening here is that both of these windows and the garage, we place those onto the top of the roof component and the garage component. What we actually need to do here is place these components inside the respective groups. So if you take the select tool and select the skylights, those windows that are up on top of the roof, you'll see an option for Edit, Cut, double click on the roof to edit the roof group, and then go back up to Edit. You'll see the option for Paste in Place, and they'll be pasted right back where they were, this time inside the group where you can see all the detail. Same thing with the garage. Select the garage door, go up to the top of the screen under Edit, Cut, double click on the garage group, and then Edit, Paste in Place. And now the garage and the windows are both pasted inside the respective groups, and you can see all the detail for those windows and doors. Okay, so we've already shown you how to edit groups. You've got the same option in SketchUp when it comes to being able to edit components. So the window looks a little boring. We could go in there and add some detail to it. If you want to change a component or edit it or add detail later on, the first thing you're going to want to do is either right-click on the window, you'll see the option this time for Edit Component, or if I close that up, the same shortcut applies. If you just double-click on that window, you can go in to edit it right away. So I'm just going to zoom into the window here and add a little detail. If I take the rectangle tool I can draw a rectangle across the mullion. It's pretty thin, so I think first I'm going to take the push-pull tool and push that back a little bit more. Give me a little more room. Then take the rectangle tool, draw a little rectangle on the mullion. When I take push-pull, I can pull that mullion straight over to the other side of the window and click on the other side of the window. Pull it all the way across. Push it down a little bit. Take the select tool, I can select the bottom surface of the frame, bottom edge of the sill. Take the move tool, I can move that up to give the window sill a slope. Maybe even take the paint bucket tool and add some colors. There's a drop-down menu for translucent colors. And I can pick translucent glass and maybe give the window frame like a gray metal color. So whatever changes you want to make to the window here, that's cool. If you want to take a couple of minutes and take some time to really spice this thing up, go for it. Keep in mind that with components, one of the coolest parts is that any change you make to one component in the model, that same change is automatically going to be updated to all of the other components in the model at the same time. So really cool feature here with components. And essentially the biggest difference between groups and components is that if you change a group, you're just changing that one group. If you change a component, you're changing all the other components in the model at the same time. So we've made some changes to this window. It's looking a little bit better. Right click off in white space, select the option for close group. And when I zoom out, one of the things I notice is that the skylights also change. Now, when you're working in SketchUp and something changes and you come back and you think to yourself, something maybe not the best waterproofing solution, who knows what, but for some reason you just want to change something in the model. When I take the select tool and go in to edit this skylight component, double click on that skylight to try to edit it. Maybe take the pencil tool and get it to fill in. One thing that you'll notice is that the windows also fill in. So let's take a look at an option that lets you change just one or just a couple components in the model at the same time. I'm going to undo back and then take the select tool, close the skylight and select just the two skylights, just those two skylights. Right click and I'll see the option here for make unique. Make those skylights unique first, then you'll be able to go in and edit those skylights. And the edits that you make will affect those skylights only. You can see the skylight changes, but the windows down below stay the same. A quick little trick here for making a skylight is to take the offset tool, offset the edges, then take the move tool, and if you hold down the Alt key on a PC or the Option key on a Mac, you can auto fold that inside surface up. Those diamond edges, you can take the eraser tool and hold down the Control key on PC or the Option key on a Mac, and you can smooth those edges out. And you can see now when I orbit around, the skylight looks just a little bit better. Let's close these components. Remember, if you're in the Select tool, you can just click off in white space to close the components. Keep clicking until all the dashed component bounding boxes go away, and everything in the model goes back to being displayed in full color. Next, it's time to take a look at the component browser. Up at the top of the screen, go to Window, Components. Once the component browser is open, look for the little house icon. Click on the house icon to access the components which are currently in your model. The component browser contains other folders of components such as generic architecture components. But what if we wanted to add the components that we created to this folder? Go back to the In Model folder and you'll see preview icons for the various components that you've placed or created in your model. Up in the top right corner of the component dialog box is a white and black icon with an arrow and a plus symbol. Click on it and you'll notice that the component browser expands to open a second component browser window. Down in the bottom window, you can use the drop-down menu to access the architecture components. If you ever want to take a component that you've created for one project and keep it stored for use on a future project, Just drag and drop that component down into whichever one of the default component folders makes the most sense. Now, after having copied our custom components to the architecture folder, we can scroll down to see that the components are now saved for future use. Close up that second window by clicking again on that black and white icon up in the corner of the component browser. Then scroll down to the architecture component folder. To place another copy of the window that you've created into this or any other project, you can now pull a copy of that window from the architecture component folder.